This event has as an intention to bring together some of the members of a few architects collectives that I have met over the last few years that have something in common. And I believe this is going to be interesting among other things because it allows for an exchange that will be happening for the first time, I believe. This, I'm not sure if I would call it movement, but this this emergence, this tendency, I believe is rather recent. It goes back to roughly to the past 10 years, over a period of crisis that many parts of the world and many countries have experienced. And some of these crises have been financial, but behind the financial crisis, there's always other kinds of crises that we need to look for. And these are political and social crises, even environmental crises. And recently, as you know, health crisis as well. We definitely live in a period of crisis that has changed everything about normality, everything about the way we live and perceive the world, and also perceive the future. So I believe that these architect initiatives are a response to this particular condition, which is a condition that threatens the livelihoods of people, threatens the ecological balance of various regions, and it's not an exaggeration to say that for many it's even understood as a threat to the very existence of the planet as we know it. So I believe that this emergence of architects collectives in a way is a response of people that have had an architectural education and are sensitive to what is happening around us in trying to employ the tools that they have been equipped with at the architectural schools by amplifying them with different and perhaps more diversified tools in order to be able to respond to these crises that I mentioned before. So far, architects would respond to needs through a channel which is the economy channel, meaning that whoever has the money has the potential to fulfill their needs by addressing the architects for a particular task that they have. It would be interesting to reverse that, to reverse this sequence and see what could happen if architects could be immediately addressed by whoever has a need. And let's just think for a minute that there is, I would argue, an abundance of architects, and I'm not referring to Greece, which is a well-known fact, but the world over, or at least in many of the countries the world over. and there is an abundance of needs which are not being met. So architects are not asked to provide their services because of a particular economic system which prevents for this to happen. So this perhaps is a starting point in order to begin to understand how and why architects of the younger generation are beginning to try to experiment in terms of how they could, let's say, cut out or pass through the obstacles that make for their expertise and their potential to provide help based on what they have been trained to do in a more direct way. So I have spent in 2014 a few months in Ecuador as a researcher. It was a period of 9 months in which I was able to experience what was happening at that time in that country, which had experienced a major crisis in 2006. And of course, there's more crises that have emerged since then, after a number of years that something radical was appearing to happen over there. Meanwhile, in Greece, as the audience from the class and anyone Greek being here attending the class knows, we have been experiencing an extended period of crisis that began in December of 2008. It wasn't financial yet, even though it coincided with the financial crisis that began in the States and then it migrated later on to Europe. Greece experienced the financial crisis severely in 2011, and the country hasn't completely recovered from it yet. And so in 2014, being there, among many of the people that I met, I had the opportunity to meet the group called Alborde, that is with us today with one of the group members. And I was really intrigued by the way that they were addressing their profession. They're all quite young, in their 30s or early 40s, if I'm not mistaken. Esteban will tell us about that. In 2015, when I returned to Quito, it was when we visited one of their projects in a community called Atucucho, in a barrio that was created in the outskirts of the city through the procedures that communities that are deprived of the official means to create housing would create housing in informal ways in many countries in Latin America. I was really impressed by their work, and we have become friends. we have been exchanging ever since. In 2016, we were able to meet again, that time in Venice, on the occasion of the Venice Architecture Biennale, which was curated by a Chilean architect, Alejandro Aravena, and it was called Reporting from the Front. It was an effort to see how people address their needs in the world everywhere, outside of the limelight of the star architecture, as we understand the architects that are famous and attract all the attention, and they go on with the mega projects that occur in different parts of the world. People employ simple means, as they have done over centuries and millennia, in order to address their housing and other needs in their communities. And Alborde was at that time invited by Alejandro Aravena, and what they were showing was an exhibition which in square feet, each square foot which was delineated on the floor of the Arsenale with white tape. It contained coins that were expressing the cost of the square meter of each one of the projects that they were exhibiting only in photos. And this exhibition was called Recursos Oscuros, Dark Resources, trying to address the possibility, the potential of architectural work to be produced with alternative means, in terms of an alternative economy and alternative materials, alternative labor. I had found this diagram which tries to explain how the exorbitant cost of a building that harbors the cost of materials, transportation, labor of qualified technicians, and all the rest can be cut down to something that is manageable and that is bottom up, based on the work that communities themselves do and materials that can be found perhaps with minimal or no cost at all. So when I came in 2016, as I said, we met again with Esteban, who is with us today, and in the auspices of the Greek Pavilion and the exhibit, which was called This is a Co-op, we had the chance to discuss and have an interview about their work. And that same year, we were able to return to Ecuador, this time on an Erasmus exchange of our school, NTUA, with PUSE, which is a university in Quito. and to participate in a construction, to be able to see how something could be created with minimal cost, with local materials and community labor, with the expertise of the architects working more as agents rather than experts. Now, more recently, in 2019, I had the opportunity, invited by a colleague and good friend by now, who teaches in the School of Architecture in Marseille, to go to Marseille in order to participate in the jury of some student thesis that had as topic some area in Athens, because this friend and colleague, Jean-Marc again, has been coming to Athens for the past few years, and has been offering workshops in Athens with the students in Marseille. So while I was there, I had the opportunity, thanks to some Erasmus students that are French and were presenting their thesis at the time, and thanks to a Greek student who is conducting his research and doing his doctoral thesis there, to visit another collective in Marseille, Collectif Et.C., they are called, and they are also with us tonight. And I had the opportunity to visit some of their projects in an area of Marseille called La Belle de Mai, and to also join a meal in their house, their place, which is called L'Ambassade de Turfu. Turfu is what otherwise would be future if you turn the letters around. And I hope that Collectif Et.C. will talk about all this. And I realized that there were many affinities between Alborde and Collectif Et.C. So I'm really happy that tonight they will be able to get to know each other. In the summer of last year, I returned yet one more time to Quito, and I was able to enjoy a nice meal, a collective nice meal, again with Alborde. So I'm offering this as in way of an introduction to what is about to follow. I find really intriguing, as I said, the kind of work that different groups of architects are experimenting with. I should mention that besides the two groups that I already introduced to you, we have with us a collective and a representative from a collective which is called HULOAC / Inteligencias Colectivas, or Inteligencia Colectiva. The representative is Juan Chacon, who is a young architect from Madrid. And I know the least about HULOAC compared to the groups that I already introduced. But I do know quite a lot more about an ex-student from our university, Cristina Serifi, who is also here with us. Cristina and Juan have been collaborating in the past few years, and one of the products of this collaboration they are going to talk to us about. It's called Tiri Lab, and it exists in Thesprotia, in a rural region of Greece. And so I think that I'm going to now stop talking. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will give the word. I suppose that we can start with who would like to start? How about Juan Chacon? Would you like to take the lead, and then Esteban would follow, and then Max, and then Christine? How is that? Good. Okay. So please introduce yourselves. I wouldn't like to do this for you, other than this general introduction and trying to set the tone about what we're going to be discussing this evening. You can, Juan, and the rest of you, you can use share content, which is the third button in the horizontal bar from the left, if you want to show us anything. And Juan, please.
Yes, hello, and thank you for the invitation, Nikos. I prepared like a very short presentation, a little bit with the structure that you suggest us. My name is Juan. I'm from the architecture collective Zulu Arc. I'm gonna explain, like, it's gonna have like 3 parts, the presentation, more or less. Like the first, I'm gonna explain a little bit how we work and who we are. The second, I'm gonna go into the topics that we work on, and also like some pictures of some projects, like not to explain you like fully like a complete projects. And then Nikos asked us to present also like what are our future objectives or goals. So I prepare like only like a one slide about that, but I think like it contains a lot of information. So Zulu Arc is a liquid professional framework, we call it. It dissolves its authorship inside other collectives and inside other networks that are a little bit bigger or they are a little bit more diffuse. And then Zulu Arc participates with them or through them or initiates them, but creating like other entities. Zulu Arc is a distributed architecture platform, so we are located in many places, and we were located in other places that we are not anymore. This is because the collective defines its headquarters through the private life of the members. So if I move to Greece or if I move to Berlin, I take the collective with me, and then we start to develop activities in the places that we are related with. Like this brings the collective like in a very localized frame of work or context. And we are organized in what we call the Matryoshka. This is like a caring network. So it's a little bit diffuse because we have like people in different cities that they belong to different structures. We collaborate in a kind of horizontal way, and we have relations with a lot of institutions. We have like there are like different ways to get involved with Zulu Arc. There are these headquarters that now we have in Berlin, Madrid, and La Coruña, that they are like a physical office that you can assist, but there are people that they work a little bit remotely. There are the SOS, the satellite of love, that there are people that they are related to the collective, but they don't collaborate like in the close, like daily structure. So it's a little bit complex, but there is like now like a core of people of 10 members that they are like working in a daily basis, and they are carrying network of like around 20 or 30 that they are collaborating in different projects. And they are also like participating in some activities from the collective. We organize ourselves in, we have like 3 areas of organization, like what we call, like, is very common, like this triangle. One is like the governance, like means like all the tasks that they are related to organization and also sovereignty of the collective, like how are the rules that lead us. The other is the economy, how we lead with the economy, and the other is the communication, internal or external. These 3 areas, we are 10 now, and there are like groups of 3-4 people that they are rotating every year. So last year I was like part of the economy area, so I developed like some rules or some documents that everybody can use freely for the economy area. And then this year I'm in communication, so I'm developing strategies on how the collective is communicating itself, external and internally. So this makes to this part of the how we govern ourselves, and we call it with flowing hierarchies. It means like I just tell, like one day I'm in a part of like a structure that I'm more like leading the operations of the economic structure, and then in the next day I'm part of a project and I'm developing only like a 3D work. Like it's like I'm like a kind of we call it Plátano, like I'm working from other for other Zulo, doing like a small task. So this develops like that we can always like be in the role that we like, and also we can learn from roles that we are not so used to. We have like through like different points of encounter like with each other, because as you know, in this kind of collective structure, like each of us, like being in different cities, we have like different schedules. So we meet like 1 hour every Tuesday and every Friday. The Tuesdays are what we call like the fucking Tuesdays, because they are more organizative. So we are talking about the structural things, and the freaking Fridays like to talk about more like things that we are interested, and more topics related to work, not so organizative tasks. And we have like once a year now, but we want to do it twice, one in summer and one in winter, the annual Congress, where we meet all together and we develop like structural work, or we develop some projects or some new ideas that we want. And this is something that we fund for ourselves. So we invest our time and like also our resources economically, and houses around or offices, to meet all together and have 1 week that we are not there for our clients. We are there only to develop like new ideas internally. And this is working very well to create like a common values and common framework, since we are all in different places, no? Like what are the topics that we are working with, what kind of projects, like to align a little bit like our ideas. In the economy part, we are working like in a kind of solidarity method. So we, each of us, like we develop projects, we put it in a pot, and then there is a kind of retribution regarding the hours of work that you did and the kind of tasks. Also to pay, like to be able to develop internal projects like this Congress, that they are not like directly funding for clients or for different public funding or whatever. So it's for us, so we have like this kind of percentage. It's a little bit more complex. But I think it's interesting to understand how the collectives are funded, or how they fund themselves, and how they do the economical structure. And the communication in Zuluark, like what we have like most developed is like the internal communication, since we are in different places, how we work. And then we work through different platforms that nowadays they are very known in the last months, but we are using them since many years, so different years, like Zoom or Jitsi for the regular meetings, and also Slack, or now we are implementing more like open source tools like Mattermost in a server of a friend. And this is like give us a regularity that like is the daily space that we can meet. Like for example, we are developing now like a protocol how to use Jitsi. So for our meetings now, we are using like since many months like the open source tool Jitsi, that is creating like maybe you know it, like it's a little bit like Cisco that we are using, but you join with a link. So, and what we can do is like with this link, we create like a virtual room that you can always join. So all the meetings are happening there. So we have 2 or 3 in case there are simultaneous meetings. But for example, when I work, I enter this meeting and sometimes other members of the collective enter there, and we are working parallelly like in a co-working space, but through our computer. So we do the jokes like as we were like in the same desk. Now I'm going to the part of the content. So we develop our work, or I tried now to a little bit to put like, I don't like it very much, but to do some boxes of some concepts that we work with. We work with one concept in our project that is called like the second lives. That is something that we are developing for over 12 years. And it's trying to create like now we call it like creating this circular process. That is a concept that is more modern, but we were calling it always like second lives, the second life of the projects or the second life of the objects. And it's like to take every design opportunity as an opportunity to rethink like what is going to be the future of this resource. So like if you, in this case, like in the picture that you are watching now, this is like a environmental fair for like the stand for the city of Madrid. They ask us to do the fair that is going to be only 1 week, and what we propose to them is like, okay, you want to explain that you have new bikes, as you see there, like in the city of Madrid, and then you are going to develop like urban orchards and stuff. What we propose to you is that we use like your old resources, like old benches, old stuff. We create new infrastructure, but this new infrastructure is going to be developed for the pavilion, but then also for some of the orchards that you want to activate afterwards. So we are going to get in contact with the orchards previous to the pavilion, and then develop the pavilion knowing that each piece is going to be in different public spaces in the city. So we create all this like from the beginning of the design, all the process until the final step, knowing that they are going to be like middle steps. This pavilion, for example, one part went to this public kindergarten that I don't know, like I see the screen here that it's freezing somehow. And now the children, they can enjoy it. I don't know if you see the pictures. Because I see only the presentation that I'm passing. Other concept that we work with is the situated knowledge, the situated city, that is coming from this concept of situated knowledge from Donna Haraway. And it's like try to learn from what is existing or the knowledge of the existing in the city, and it's trying to include everyone in the taking decisions in the city we are doing. This is one very known example in Madrid, a public square that was taken by neighborhoods. We were part of these neighborhoods that we were like implementing like some solutions for them, and like a little bit the management of the space in collaboration with this association is called El Campo de Cebada. It was closed like 2 years ago, but it was like one of these transitory projects of the city that brought up like a lot of controversials around like how the city's management is managing the public spaces. Or like in a bigger frame, like territorial design, participatory design, how we can like think together with the neighbors, like a region as big as the place we are now in Cesprotia, or in this case, the picture that is on the screen for Llanes in Asturias. And it was like we did like 6 months project, like going to every village. There were 96 villages, doing meetings with all the neighbors in these villages, like taking all the information of the reclaiming process that they had, all the things that they were like happy with, not happy. So we did like this, how to create like the future of their territory by including like every neighbor possible in the process of designing. This is one picture of one of the 96 meetings that they were designed with the neighbors, like understanding what are the requirements from them. The urban rights is a tool that we use in all these processes. It's like we are all constructing the city by thought, act, or omission, no? Only by being citizens we are creating it, by moving around them, by using the places that we use, we are doing the city and our cities. And this is a project that is also a methodology that we are using like over the years in different projects that is trying to give voice back to the citizens. Giving back voices and then collecting data about what are the rights that we have in our cities, what are the rights that we have to protect, and what are the rights that we have to eradicate, and what are the things that we need to conserve that they are like very, very valuable. We create like not only like the beginning of the project was like collecting videos about like statements of citizens to understand what are in its city, what are the topics that they are concerned about, and then afterwards it developed like in different urban parliaments to discuss these topics. So the methodology is so that we first do a kind of analysis like detecting like 100 citizens from different like regarding to the community we are working with. We ask these questions of what do you want to protect, what do you want to eradicate, and then we extract like some topics that the people are more concerned about, and then we create this kind of urban parliaments to go deeper on that, and then propose solutions and design like other methodologies to jump them or to work with them. This was the example in Lisbon, and now is like the parliament that you see. The second one is in Berlin. And then I come to the project. I don't know if I'm extending myself too much. I'm sorry if I pass the 10 minutes, but I have only this project left. I think is inteligencias colectivas is towards the standardized futures. Inteligencias colectivas that Nikos introduced is a project that it became also a methodology because it's now like also introduced like in every project that in the way we are doing. It starts like a kind of research project, like giving catalog and voice to the architecture without architects, like all the intelligent solutions that the people are developing all around the world to improve their cities, their life, that they are like born from the necessity, from the reutilization or whatever, and try to do a catalog online that is accessible for everyone, trying to learn from them, no? Like cataloging, doing tags, and also drawing some of them in a kind of instruction methodology that the people can understand how the things are built, and then can be for the people to be able to build them by themselves, but also joining institutions and communities to develop prototypes, learning from what they had existed. No? In a lot of places that we go, like from Europe to all over around the world, like the development is normally like we erase what is existing and we do something new that is normally not related for what is pre-existing. And here Inteligencias Colectivas tries to understand like what is pre-existing, learn from them, and then give new uses or remix it to create like new future imaginaries. We have been like in many places called by different institutions and communities around the world. And we have been developing different prototypes in this kind of methodology, where the methodology is we go to a place because somebody called us like, oh, we would love to collaborate with you. We have like, it's depending on 1 week to 10 days of like field research. We go on the streets with our cameras, knowing people and understanding how is the way the people build in this place, like understanding what is like the architectural solutions, the materials that they are available easier, how they work, and then trying to create this community around the topic from the people that they call us, doing a mapping of what is all these resources of this neighborhood or city. So there are different scales, and then proposing solutions that learn from these technologies or from these ways of doing. In this case that you are seeing is the city of Lagos, these palafitic houses. And then here we developed like a kind of Lagos urban commons map, where we were detecting like what are because Lagos is a city that is growing very fast, and they are like building like this kind of futuristic towers from people that they are coming from abroad, architects coming from abroad and building like a kind of office that they are not related to much of the communities that they are there. So we tried to go around Lagos in 12 days. That it was impossible because the city is huge. To detect what are the really local knowledge that it can be used for the future development of the city, including the people doing this kind of technologies or this kind of architectures, and thinking new ways of implementing them together with these communities. And the last one, sorry, it was not the last one, is the zone of proximal development. Like all the projects or a lot of the projects that we do, and now even more, they are having like a pedagogical component. Even like external, like a lot of them, we are collaborating with educational institutions, and then we are developing prototypings together with academic institutions, universities, like to create like processes where students can be involved in real life examples, but also internally, how we can in Zuluar create a structure that the people can come to learn by developing like their own first projects through that, and also by ourselves, like in this kind of hierarchical rotation, that I can be learning new skills every time I develop a new project. I finished with this future picture. What we are doing now in Zuluar since last year, or since this year, since our Congress this year, Aurora, one of the members, explained to us deeply, because we knew that, but we didn't know deeply. She did an exercise with all of us with the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals. So now, and then what we did is like we are relating our projects and our practice to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. That I don't know if you know it, but it's very important that everybody knows. So I'm bringing this donut that is very famous in the last months also, and we have it like always in our screens, and it's coming repeatedly to us for the different projects. From this economist called like Kate Raworth from UK, that is talking about like where the humanity needs to put itself, no? And there is like regarding or related to these sustainable development goals from the UN. There is like in this donut, like you have like the social foundation, that there are the things that you cannot go under them, like education, health, food for everyone, water. So the humanity needs to be always, all the humanity needs to be above it. And then our ecological ceiling, like the climate change in a kind of like hole, like the ozone layer depletion, the air pollution, that our projects. So we think that, or what they are saying, like the economy needs to be in between this green line, like trying to be aware of what is the shortfall or not to pass in this social foundation and not going above the ecological ceiling. So we can move ourselves in this thin line of the green, in the green donut. And we are trying in Zuluar to develop our projects and related projects, trying to be always, or not always, from now, trying to understand how our practice can be in this place, can be positioned, taking care on this ecological ceiling, but also this social foundation, guaranteeing that none of the borders is crossed in any projects we are doing. And this is what we are trying to implement this year, and is our future goal for this year, trying to understand if we are doing it right or not. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I hope everything is understandable.
Thank you very much, Juan. I think this was an excellent presentation, setting the pace and providing, let's say, us with lots of thoughts about our topic. I'm going to have Esteban take the lead now. Hi, Esteban. I hope you can hear us and see us. The floor is yours, or rather the screen is yours, I should say. So, please.
Thanks a lot, Nicholas. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to share this discussion with Zuluark. I met some of their work in Berlin, I thought, and Collective etc. We have heard a lot about them lately in the last few years. I hope to meet them someday when we can travel again. I'm sorry for my English. I'm a little bit rusty, so if you don't understand something, just interrupt me, and I will be glad to try to explain it better. So I will share my screen to show you some of our work. We are located in Ecuador, and we use the internet webpage to show just an overview of what are our main interests in projects. So we have a lot of public interest design. We work from these small installations like this small bridge we did in Sao Paulo a few years ago, to some installations like this, which are recycling of a train wagon also a few years ago. So it can be something that students could use as an extended school classroom. So you can check some of them here. We also work doing private housing, usually with people who wants to, who don't know what they want, and we try to figure out together with them. We use a lot of experimentation with this because we lack of experimenting funds here in Latin America. So we use these private commitments to develop things like this roof made with tires and some technologies like that. We also have a lot of work with academic projects, which we tend to use the same thing as our professional practice. We reunite a group of students, and during one semester or 1 year, we work with a community in the outskirts. Is where the neighborhood leaders and the neighborhood reunions were made. So this is our academic projects. We have a lot of, well, not a lot of, but some exhibitions like the one that Nicholas shows in the beginning. We had some actions also. Actions, we put this word for things that we don't know how to classify. So here is a documentary that we use that we did a few years ago, or something like this, which was an installation for the slot walk that was made here in in Quito last year. And finally, we have some publications about our work. Recently, we did a book of all of our work. Is the first monography that we did with Arquine in Mexico. So if you can check it, you can Google it and you can check it. And now I want to show you some more detailed things about our work, so you can understand what are our motivations and what we do. 2016, an earthquake hit the coast of Ecuador. And in the same year, the Habitat 3 Congress was held in Quito. We won a competition for build the German pavilion by doing something that also Zuluark did with that thing for Madrid. We because the event was going to last 4 days, we designed a pavilion which was made of materials that can help us to build houses for the affected parts of the earthquake. So it was a very simple pavilion with the material of the structure that we need. There you saw there you see the podium was made of the roof tiles and very easy to dismantle. So once the Habitat 3 was over, we saw that this we showed to say that a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the investment in the infrastructure of these events, especially in Ecuador and especially after the earthquake, was going to the garbage instead of these simple techniques that help us to build two of these prototypes we were researching with the university for rural areas. And in the same way, we did this with the Mexican pavilion for another community which was lacking of a lunchroom, and which besides from earthquakes also had an issue with flooding. So that's why we elevated almost 2 meters above and underground in this floor. We just did some equipment to rest and for the kids to play. Also, I want to show you some of our work in this beach in the coast of Ecuador. This was the school they had in 2009, and the government offered this solution for them. But it's interesting to work with people who even if they need some infrastructure, they reject this kind of modular solutions which are not thought for the place and not thought for the people who's going to inhabit them. So we did this in 2009, which is a very simple school. But in 2011, they asked us again to go to them, and we developed a constructive system which was able to share the knowledge and the decisions with the community in a most direct way. And what was interesting was that this became kind of the center of the place we were working with, and the people was replicating the constructive system in order to expand these constructions that were made for them. We were doing for them. So in 2009, this was the picture of the private houses that were built there, and there's a lot of prejudice in these kind of buildings, because the materials are thought as materials for poor people. But in 2013, we saw that they were trying to experiment with the forms in the architecture they were doing. So this is the house of a fisherman there, who has double heights and a dodecagon plan. He was interested in thinking about it. So when they asked us again to do a kindergarten for the children, we thought in doing a school with them. So they are the ones who design and not us. This is not even participatory design, but just something that we can do in the school, in the university. It was very similar. So this is the model that the community did for them. This is what they designed for the children. Just a mini world designed for them. This is the rest room, the sleeping room for the children. And we like to think of our architecture as vernacular architecture, because this word doesn't have to be related to ancient times, but can address contemporary issues of what we need, and also addresses contemporary problems that we are trying to solve, like sustainability and lack of resources. I think that's about it.
Thanks, Esteban. I know that you can keep going on and on, because there's so much that so much more than what we have already seen through your presentation. But maybe we can. It will be best if we can use the time after the presentations for discussion and debate. So at this point, I think I would like Max to take the lead. Max is representing
Hello.
Collectif ETC, and we have been trying to put together a proposal a couple months ago together. I'm not going to say more about this, but okay, Max, please.
Okay, thank you, Nikos, for the invitation. We are very happy to be here with Zulork and Alborde, who are our big brother. So thank you again, Nikos. And so I will try to present very briefly who we are, in order to present to you more in detail one project we are doing this year. Collectif ETC. So we start from school in 2010. We were 12, 15 people. And from the start, we decided to call ourselves an architects, but also builders. It was very important for us to say that we have to be active in the sense of our profession, not to stay behind our computers, but to be outside and to do projects. So after school, we decided to all together to spend 1 year in France by bike with no money in order to discover all the new thematics we thought it was interesting to develop for in our group. So it was basically the citizen fabric of the city. So we decided to spend 1 year in order to meet all the people who are working around this bottom-up project, participative process project in a urban project or architectural project. So we spent 1 year in order to discover all the people and to make a lot of projects, and in order to create ourselves also as a group. And after this Tour de France, we decided to continue in a professional way, and we learned how to be a group, how to have an horizontal way of working all together, one person, one vote. So it was a long process to structure our group and to make projects. But now, after 10 years, we made basically an adjoint project in a wide range of subjects. We started in the public spaces. We were very involved in these thematics, how you can involve inhabitants in projects, in urban projects, how as an architect you can be a facilitator between inhabitants and institutions. And in order to do that, we decided to all the time to create in-house projects, what we call the workshop, constructive workshop on site. So it can be 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, depend of the project and of the budget. But it was our tool. It was how you can act in the public spaces with inhabitants in order to demonstrate and to test a management in public spaces, and in order to discuss after with the architect or the urbanist or the landscape designers in charge of the more global project. And so we start with a little project with no little budget in in the center cities or in villages. And after 5 or 6 years, we decided to discover other part of other subjects, and we start to be interested to test this methodology and our tools with more budget and more more time to do it. So I will show you four projects we made the last 2 years that show you that now we decided to work on different subjects. So it's public spaces in Paris, in the Place du Panthéon, for example. We work here for 3 years. We also decided to try to go more on architectures. So this is an example of a macro architecture we built with students with recycle and local materials. We also think now that it's very important to talk about this kind of collective processing project, what we are doing. So as Alborde, we went to the Biennale of Architecture of Venezia in order to present projects, in order to speak about what we are doing as an architect, as young architects today. And we are also now developing some architectural projects, real architectural projects. So for example, this is a house we are building with a local and ecological process way of doing. Basically, so all of our projects, we want to improve the living environment. So you can say you can see on this picture that it's the typical day of the collectif ETC. It's you are sharing and you are debating with the people in order to propose new solutions for places, for places. And so this is our tool. So as I said, it's an open construction site. For us, it's very important also to bring people in collective stories, imagines new stories in order to get them in the project. So for years now, we develop different various types of tools. So we start with hammer and wood, and now we learn a lot more about new tools like here serigraphy. We are working for this with a lot of people. We are 6 now in the collective, but on each project we are inviting various type of professional with various skills who are helping us to develop projects. So we are working a lot with, for example, video makers or landscape designers. And as Nico said, after 5 years of living all together and working all together around France and Europe, we decided to settle, and we chose Marseille to settle as an architect, as inhabitants. So we open a place called l'Ambassade du Turfu, and we start living in the neighborhood and talking with inhabitants and to propose some new uses from this new place we opened. So we used it as an office, but we also use it to bring people, other associations of the neighborhood, in order to use it. And we have now these second places that is more the workshop part, where we are now testing new way of building. So as I said, we start from wood, but now we are developing some project around metals, concrete, and recycle projects. So recycled materials. So we need this kind of place in order to improve and to test. And we also developed and created a publishing house in order to speak and to explain our ideas, our projects, our concerns. And so we opened this publishing house in 2016-17, and we wrote a book. And now we have several books, and we help people to edit their proposition. And after 4 or 5 years in Marseille, we are more and more involved in politics as a group and as architects. So we are very involved in social movements in Marseille since 2016 now, and we help groups of inhabitants to struggle and to fight against these institutions' power, and we try with them to find solutions and to help them to discuss with institutions and to propose solutions. So now, the collectif ETC is more and more in politic approach of our project, and that's it. And just to finish about our group, we continue we want to create a wide network around France. We did this 10 years ago, but now we are still doing this at an European scale, and we want to continue this in order to share the words and to have more power around collectives or young architects in order to deal with all the problems we are facing now today. So just to finish, because Nikos asked us to present project. Now, as I said, we were working in very urban contexts, like in Marseille or in Paris or in Bordeaux, in larger cities in France. And now after 10 years, we want to move a little bit our concerns, and we are interested now around more rural areas in France and in Europe, and how you can find in these rural areas some communities who want to develop projects. And we are focusing on the architectural projects they want to make. For example, here we have this project is called Place des Possibles. It's an old factory placed in the center town of a village of 5,000 people. And now this place is empty. There is no use for 10 years now. And there is some inhabitants and some associations who decided 4 years ago to create a project inside and to use this empty place for the village and for the territory and for to how you can develop some work inside to bring inhabitants inside to talk about how we want to develop project for the village, for example, or there is various subjects. So they start to bring people inside to talk about how they want to do what they want to do, but at the end they need an architect as a facilitator to develop their project, because it's a 3,000 square meter project, so they need architects also to help them. So they ask us to help them in order to develop a long process project with a low budget, but with a lot of energy. So they are like 60 people, and now we are helping them to all together. We are planning the project, we are designing the future project, and we are presenting all the design and the ideas to all the inhabitants of the village, but also more widely to the region. And we think this kind of project can be very local, but it can have also an interest for the global purpose. So we start 2 years ago to be involved in this project, and for us, we always worked with schools, art schools and architect schools for years. And for us now, it's very important to link this kind of community projects with real needs with School of Architectures. So now we are in this project, we involve one School of Architecture with students. And the idea is to have these three actors in one project. So the local community, the School of Architecture, and a collective of young architects, and how we can all together work all together in order to develop this kind of project. And just to finish, so we decided as a group that in order to do this project that for us is very important right now, we have to move from Marseille in order to live in this little village, in order to be on site every day, to be more close to these people and the inhabitants. So with 15 people, we decided to move to this village, and we are buying a house with 15 or 16 people in order to also develop a new place for working, for living, and for partying, for sharing our ideas and our work. And that's it. It's a new story for the collective, and I hope it will be good for us. Thank you. I hope it's not too long. And again, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Max. Good luck with the new country house, and good luck with everything. It was really nice hearing you and watching what you have showed us. And I would now like to bring us back to Greece through Christina, who is one of my favorite ex-students. I shouldn't be afraid to say that. So Christina, perhaps before you begin, I should say that we collaborated with Christina over the project that the first year has traditionally been giving in architectural composition, and these were the crisis years that were really very difficult in Athens and traumatic. And I distinctly remember having one meeting with you and Grigoris in close to Kanigos at the time that everything was at a halt because there was a protest. I'm not sure what it was right now. But after that, Christina went on to pursue graduate studies in the US with Michael Sorkin, who is someone that has been a mentor to me. And I think that I was, let's say, able to assist her decision making at the time. And after that, when I was in Ecuador, I was talking to her ex-partner at school, who was about to finish his thesis, and I was asking about Christina, and he told me that she is fine and she is somewhere abroad for a studio with her professor, and I asked where, and I found that where she was, where else? In Ecuador. So we have many links of collaboration since then over a book, and we have met at different places. But now Christina is back at her hometown, and which is in rural Greece. And I think that what they are doing there is exemplary. I'm also very curious to hear her talk about it, because there is a lot to be said about the countryside, the rural areas everywhere in Greece, but I believe in most parts of the world, which are being abandoned as the world becomes more and more urbanized. So there are many things to discuss about our interdependence to the rural areas, which are the productive areas for our living, but also for their own sake and their, let's say, their future, how we can envision their future. So Christina is going to talk about it. Christina.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Nikos. I'm super excited to be here and to share screens and work and talk together with Thulo, Alborde, and Collective ETC. We are a super new initiative, so for me it's a big pleasure. So I'm going to talk about Theory Lab. As you said before, I am currently back to my village, to my hometown, which is actually a small village in the north of Greece, northwest, a region that is called Thesprotia. This is where I was born. This is where I grew up. And after living many years abroad, so it was the moment that everyone was asking me whether I'm gonna go back to Greece, I'm gonna go back to my hometown, and it was this kind of, and it struck me why everyone was asking me if I go back, because I was not feeling I was going backwards. I was feeling that I was going forward. So Theory Lab started as an initiative very recently. It's been 2 years with a group, we consider it as a joint venture between group of colleagues, professionals, other collectives that they were interested in what's happening here in the region. And the whole, and the vision, it was, because we call it Tiri Lab, and Tiri in Greece is cheese. The vision was to revive an abandoned cheese factory in the area and turn it somehow into a community incubator. So this is our region, our vision. But what we are inspired and what we wish to learn is from real life practices. And we are focusing on especially territorial areas away from urban centers. We don't like this distinction between the urban and the rural. And we don't approach these areas or these territories as experts, as people who want to give solutions, but as someone who believe teaching and learning as a bidirectional process. So I would say very quickly what are the main focus of Tiri Lab. So we work with different groups of people in the area and around different topics, but we categorize all these different, let's say, all these different activities into 3 main topics: architectural and technological heritage, intangible cultural heritage, and natural environmental heritage. And through these, from these 3 topics, we seek for territorial commons. So we believe that every one of these big categories includes commons, and this is where we are focusing on. Trying to seek new perspectives, new opportunities, and new economies through research, action, production, and education. What I'm going to show you is 2 projects that we have started already, and one future project that we presented recently in the Civic Europe platform. Are more or less the 3 areas that we are focusing on. And the first project that I'm going to talk to you is mapping the margins. Mapping the margins is also a project that it's an ongoing process. It's an active process, and it's an act of mapping and prototyping. And what we started doing actually is that we wanted to document and identify and document all the women associations and cooperatives in the area and of the Thesprotia, and actually understand who lives there, how they live there, the way of organizing, in order to create like an active platform, an active network of knowledge where all these people, different initiatives and cooperatives can find a place to grow. We started from women initiatives because we thought that they're a huge asset in the area, since they found their ways of organizing and producing different products and keeping somehow these villages alive. I'm going to give you a short introduction, like a quick introduction in the area. It's a place of, as we call it, a lot of mythical topologies. So there are a lot of little spaces around that. Also, they have a lot of legends and myths from the local from inhabitants, but also because of mythology or ancient history. And we did some maps regarding the area for the local topography, and we find out that there are more than 40% of the area of the whole province of Thesprotia. There are wildlife and natura protected areas, and this is something that is going to lead us also to the last project that I'm going to talk about. And also this area has this kind of rough topography, which creates a feeling of enclosure. And this feeling of enclosure also created multicultural identities in the area, where you can see like a Venetian influence in the coast and the Ottoman villages in the inland, and back on the mountains there, up on the mountains there's a more Byzantine influence. So we were very interesting among to find like all this kind of in between or this kind of merges between all these different cultures of people and identities. Actually, in the area, there has been coexisting Christian and Muslim groups until Second World War. And it's very interesting because the people still speak like a kind of Albanian or Greek dialect. And also regarding the topography, there are a lot of different landscapes that you can see, like the Lianolia variety of this particular olive variety in the coast, where is also it's very heavy touristified, and the pastoral inland. Mostly our focus is in the pastoral inland, in this kind of buffer zones between the mountains and the sea. And quickly, we have identified through different research and studies. We have done a kind of directory of all the villages of the area. There are about 127 villages that they have population below 100 citizens. For example, the inhabitants. For example, my village, the place that I live right now, it has like 60 inhabitants. And all these places, they are like also disconnected. So we were very interested in between connections somehow. And what we have found, and it was very interesting for us, is that through regardless this kind of disconnections, we have identified a variety of, as I said before, self-organized initiatives, mostly by women, who have actually organized themselves almost over the last 3 decades, producing different local products or creating like encounters with the community. And we started creating encounters and different meetings with these initiatives from different places. And this is a kind of let's say diagram of how we imagine of all these initiatives like coming together. We somehow value their work and their way of organizing, because we believe that in the period that agricultural cooperatives are obsolete in Greece due to corruption or many other reasons, women cooperatives somehow stayed alive and provide like a post-growth imaginary. And their position of these women has transformed from caregivers to their families and close to their close families as formats of care for the whole community. So we value these practices somehow as spaces of resistance. So I'm gonna explain you really quickly the type of encounters that we started doing, that we want to do every summer. Our first international encounter was last year, and we call it Summer of Nothing. We brought around 30 participants from different places around the globe. That they stayed in Morphy, they stayed in the village, with different families, so they learn about their ways of living. And the whole idea, that's why we call it Summer of Nothing, was to challenge this dominant way of living and have another rhythm, let's say, and try to enjoy and see the area and understand it in a profound way. This was one of the maps that we created that has like a kind of narrative. It's a narrative map with all the local stories around the area, around Morphy, and this is how you see also the proximity. And Summer of Nothing has some concept like the effortless action on the actionless action comes from this Chinese concept, philosophical concept of Wu Wei, which means that you do nothing, but nothing is left undone. So it's something that we value in this way of living in the in the countryside. This was some of our encounters that we did. And I'm gonna talk about our last project, which is something that we're proposing now, and we call it ikiology. Ikiology comes from the word ikiosis in Greek, that it means appropriating, and ecology. As I said before, more than 40% of the area it is natural protected heritage or Natura 2000 areas, and that they are in danger because of the recent environmental law that was passed, I guess 2 weeks ago, from the Greek government, that actually they're abolishing the protection of the Natura 2000 and natural protected areas. And these local economy, it's dependent on them, but because also their way of living, their way of encountering and associating with each other. These areas as well, they have like a kind of, as I was explaining, like these mythologies, and they're related to their collective memory. So we are proposing a series of cultural actions that they're going to happen next summer, maybe starting from this summer slowly, in outdoor places in these natural protected areas, in order to highlight their importance, give them visibility, and highlight the importance also for the community. So we would like to bring different communities together through different cultural actions happening in these in many particular cultural areas. Another thing that ikiology is going to bring, that we would like to start, like to initiate in the area, is that we would like to work in different abandoned schools. The area has all these villages. They have like a big amount of abandoned public infrastructure. Most of them are schools that they're not used. So what we are proposing is that to reactivate these schools through series of action with local communities, and have them as create them as community centers where many groups of people can also work there. And this is something that we are aspiring that when we can bring also students here from the area, and for the project that we are proposing also with Collective ETC and NTUA for Erasmus+, it will be amazing if we can create also some kinds of encounters within the schools and activate them even more. So finishing, as Nikos was saying, to see where we see ourselves in the future, what we envision or what we dream. I would like to mention that we see TiriLab as a part of a wider network of open platforms and initiatives that point another way of organizing free and open source software, wikis, open design and hardware repair and relocalization, community currencies and infrastructure. And we would like to build and be part of a transnational network of cooperation, creating locally and sharing their knowledge globally. And and somehow contribute to the ongoing dialogue of another way of making, let's say, and the future of the territorial areas, or the areas that are away of urban centers. Thank you.
Christina, thank you so much. Thank you all for such a really inspiring series of presentations.